On the evening of Friday, the 27th of June, 2026, a 46-year-old Australian man stood inside Bangkok's Suvarnabhumi airport, holding a ticket home. His flight was bound for Perth. In a few hours, he would have been in the air, out over the Andaman Sea, then gone, beyond the reach of the country he was leaving behind. He never boarded, because by the time he reached that departure gate, according to Thai police, the cameras had already told a story he could not outrun. A story that had begun 2 days earlier and about 150 kilometers away in the beach city of Pattaya. A story that ended with a black suitcase left in the long grass beside a railway line. When officers questioned him after his arrest, they noticed marks on his neck. Asked about them, police say, the man gave a simple answer. He said it was a spider. This is what the public record says happened, and it is a story that has forced Thailand to ask an uncomfortable question about who it lets through its open door. Let's be precise about what is known and careful about what is not. On the 27th of June, 2026, rescue workers and forensic technicians searched a grassy area beside a railway track in Pattaya City on Thailand's eastern seaboard, roughly 150 kilometers from Bangkok. There, according to reporting by CNN and Al Jazeera, they recovered a suitcase. Inside it was the body of a 17-year-old Thai girl. Out of respect for her and for her family, we are not going to name her in this video. She was a teenager. She had a father, a 46-year-old man named Thongchai Donhomla, who told reporters that his daughter had grown up without a mother and that he was struggling to come to terms with losing her. That is the center of this story, and it should never be forgotten underneath the details of the investigation. A young person is gone. A father is grieving. Everything else is context. The Australian man arrested at the airport that same week has been named by police and by international outlets as Simon Peter Carman, 46 years old. He has been charged. He has not been tried. Under Thai law, as under the law of most countries, he is presumed innocent unless and until a court finds otherwise, and nothing in this video should be taken as a conclusion about his guilt. What we can do is lay out what the police say, what the cameras recorded, and what happens next. The court will do the rest. To understand this case, you have to understand Pattaya. For most of the world, Pattaya is a postcard. It sits on the Gulf of Thailand, a 2-hour drive from the capital, and for decades it has been one of the most visited resort cities in Southeast Asia. There are beaches and island day trips and family water parks. There are luxury condominium towers with sea views, and there are quiet expat neighborhoods where retirees from Europe and Australia have settled to live out long, warm, inexpensive years. But Pattaya has another reputation, and it is not a secret. It is a city built in large part around nightlife and around foreign visitors, a place where an enormous transient population of tourists arrives, spends, and leaves, week after week, year after year. That churn is the engine of the local economy. It is also, at times, its vulnerability. Where money and anonymity and a constant flow of strangers meet, the people most exposed are almost always the young and the local and the poor, the people who serve the visitors, not the visitors themselves. That is the backdrop against which this case unfolds. A global playground, a teenage girl who lived in its shadow, and a foreign visitor with a ticket that could carry him back across the world. What police describe is, in its outline, a story told almost entirely by security cameras. And that matters, because CCTV is now the spine of investigations like this one. In a city like Pattaya, dense with condominium lobbies, convenience stores, traffic cameras, and street corner lenses, a person's movements can be reconstructed, frame by frame, long after the fact. According to the account given by Thai police and reported by CNN and Al Jazeera, security footage captured the 17-year-old entering a condominium building in the early hours of the morning in the company of the man now under arrest. That is the first fixed point on the timeline. The second fixed point comes hours later. Separate footage, police say, showed the same man leaving the building, but this time he was not accompanied. He was carrying a large black suitcase. Investigators say he loaded that suitcase onto the back of a motorbike and rode away. Those two clips, one arrival, one departure, became the heart of the investigation. Between them sits everything the court will have to weigh. What we can say plainly is what police have stated publicly, that the girl was last seen entering the building alive, and that the man was later seen leaving it alone with a case large enough to matter. Not long afterward, and a short distance from where she had last been seen, the suitcase was found beside the railway line. We are not going to dwell on what was inside it, beyond what dignity requires us to say that the body of the 17-year-old was discovered there, and that police immediately treated the death as a homicide. There is nothing to be gained from lingering on the details, and a great deal of respect to be lost. The record is enough. A child was found where a child should never be found, and the machinery of a criminal investigation began to move. The man who leads the Pattaya City Police Station, a police colonel named Anek Sarathongu, told reporters that officers believed the man they were questioning was responsible, and that he was being questioned on suspicion of murder. Belief is not proof, and the colonel's words are an allegation, not a verdict, but it set the direction of everything that followed. Here is where the timeline turns from a beach city to an international airport. While the man was, according to police, making his way toward Bangkok and a flight home to Perth, investigators in Pattaya were building their picture from the footage. And this is the part of the story the audience always leans toward, not the crime, but the catch, the quiet, methodical closing of a door. By the time the 46-year-old reached Suvarnabhumi Airport, the outer edge of Bangkok, and prepared to board that flight to Australia, police were ready. He was detained at the airport on the Friday evening, on the cusp of leaving the country. A ticket in hand, and a nation's border service between him and the gate. When officers took him into custody and questioned him, they documented what they saw. According to police, the man bore fingernail scratches that were, in the colonel's words, consistent with a struggle. And when they asked him about marks on his neck, police say, he offered that strange, small explanation. Not a person, not an argument, a spider. Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade confirmed to reporters that it was aware of the case and was providing consular assistance to the man, but said it could not comment further. That is the standard, careful language of a government whose citizen has been arrested abroad. So what exactly does he now face? According to CNN and Al Jazeera, citing Thai police, the man has been charged with several offenses: murder, concealing a body, moving or destroying a body, and taking a minor for an indecent purpose. Those are the charges as reported. They are allegations that the prosecution will have to prove in a Thai court to the standard the law requires. Before he was transferred to the Pattaya Provincial Court, police say the man made a short statement directed at the girl's family. He said he felt bad about what had happened to their daughter, and then he added a phrase that will, in all likelihood, sit at the center of this case for a long time. He said it was out of his control. It is not our place to interpret those words. A courtroom will do that. But it is worth noting, plainly, what a defense built on a phrase like that tends to look like, and what a prosecution built on CCTV and forensics tends to look like, because that is the collision this case is heading toward. On one side, an account of something that spiraled beyond anyone's intention. On the other, a timeline assembled from cameras, an arrival, a departure, a suitcase, a motorbike, a body by the tracks, and a man at an airport with a boarding pass. That contradiction between out of my control and a sequence of deliberate documented movements is precisely the kind of thing juries and judges are asked to resolve, and it is precisely why the presumption of innocence exists, because the resolution belongs to the court, on the evidence, and not to any of us watching from a distance. Now step back from the individual case, because this arrest did not happen in a vacuum. It landed at a very specific moment for Thailand, and that timing is part of the story. As both Al Jazeera and CNN noted in their reporting, the arrest came only weeks after Thailand had sharply reduced the length of stay it grants to visa-free tourists, a policy change that followed a run of high-profile cases involving foreigners accused of serious crimes, from drug offenses to trafficking. For years, Thailand's extraordinary openness to visitors has been one of its greatest economic strengths. Tens of millions of people arrive every year. The welcome is real, and it is generous. But cases like this one feed a difficult national conversation, one that Thai officials, Thai media, and Thai citizens have increasingly had out loud. It is a conversation about the balance between an open door and a duty of care. about what a country owes to its own young people when it markets itself so successfully as a place where outsiders can arrive freely and disappear into the crowd. There is no easy answer to that. Every tourism-dependent nation on earth wrestles with some version of it. But it is the reason a single arrest in Pattaya became national and then international news rather than a local police report, because it touched something larger than itself. And there is a quieter pattern underneath it, one that researchers in criminology have documented for decades, and that has nothing to do with Thailand specifically. In transient places, resort towns, port cities, tourist strips anywhere in the world, the people most at risk are rarely the ones passing through. They are the locals whose lives are woven into the machinery of hospitality, often young, often working, often without the protection that money or a foreign passport quietly provides. A 17-year-old in a city built around visitors is exactly the kind of person that pattern leaves most exposed. That is not a comment about anyone's guilt. It is a comment about vulnerability and about who tends to pay the price when a place sells anonymity as a product. As of the making of this video, the case sits where the most difficult cases sit, at the beginning of the legal process, not the end. The man has been charged and transferred to the Pattaya Provincial Court. He has not been convicted of anything. The Australian government is providing him consular assistance, as it is obliged to do. The prosecution will present its evidence, the footage, the forensics, whatever the investigation has gathered. The defense will answer it. A Thai court will decide. We will not tell you what that decision should be because we do not know and because it is not ours to make. What we can tell you is that the pieces already in the public record, the 2 clips, the suitcase, the scratches described by police, the man stopped at the gate with a ticket home, will be tested, one by one, against the highest standard the law can apply. That is how it is supposed to work. That is the difference between an accusation and a conviction, and it is a difference worth protecting even in a case as painful as this one. In the end, this is not really a story about an airport, or a suitcase, or a strange remark about a spider. Those are the details that make it travel around the world. But the story is a 17-year-old girl who is not here anymore, and a father named Thong Chai who has to learn how to wake up in a house that is missing her. He said his daughter grew up without a mother, and that he does not know how to come to terms with this. We are not going to add anything to that. Some grief does not need narration. If this case stayed with you, leave a comment and tell me what you'll be watching for as it moves through the courts. We cover cases from Thailand and across Southeast Asia, carefully and from the record, every week. If that's the kind of storytelling you want more of, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.